This podcast was brought to you by Uncle Geeb Productions. Hey guys, and welcome everyone to the Drippy G Podcast. I'm your host, Uncle Geeb, and with me is host Drip Media Gaming. We record this podcast live every Wednesday at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. You can also leave us a review on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. 5 stars, baby. On tonight's episode, we are talking about the Switch 2, but we're taking our own little take on it. We'll get to that in just a minute. We're gonna get to a little bit of Nintendo history as well, so that should be fun. Drip, how are you doing this week, man?
Doing fantastic. The weather's great. Stuff's starting to grow back on the trees. I love that. I've been outside a little bit. I went to a basketball court to shoot a video yesterday that I can't even use. That pissed me off. Other than that, it's been a great week. How about you?
It's been pretty good. This week has been pretty good. I can't complain. Again, it's a midweek thing, so it's weird that we still do this. But
yes. Well, hey, let me ask you again quickly. How was the end of last week for you?
End of last week was great. We had a great Fortnite. We had a great Fortnite Friday.
We did have a great super Fortnite fun Friday. It was very fun.
It was so glad that Seth always puts on that show. We just kind of tag along. It's always so much fun.
It was good. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah. And
probably the best one yet.
Today I was halfway through my first episode of Bad Batch, and suddenly I go upstairs to find a bunch of dog excrement all over the floor because the dog got sick. That wasn't so great. But it happens. And the worst part is I couldn't even tell what dog it was. I think it was Nick, but I wasn't sure.
Okay, time out. The size of your two dogs.
They're very similar.
Are they? The only time I've seen the other one, I thought that one was much smaller than Nick.
No, Owl's probably, I think she's a German Shepherd mix.
I've only seen her like
German Shepherd
once.
Lab mix. Olive is like, I don't know, I think she's like 50, 60 pounds, somewhere in that ballpark, and Nick is in the 80, 90 ballpark range.
Why did I think your other dog was so much smaller? Probably because I've only seen it once.
Because she has very stubby legs. She got very cute stubby legs.
Okay,
she's a mix, right? She's a mutt off the street.
I've only seen this dog from that camera right there.
Right. So it's pointing
just
down,
maybe behind you. Yeah.
So she's got really. She
fair.
got. I'll post a picture of her and both of them in my Discord for the fur baby's room. But yeah, she's got really stubby legs, so it makes her look a lot smaller than she actually is.
Fair. It happens. Fair.
But yeah, so we're other than that, my week so far has been fine. I got a video to do for you. That'll be fun. We're getting some videos out on the channel.
2 done last night, man.
Yeah,
God, I'm pumped I did that.
Hi everyone. This is us from the past. Or the future. I'm sorry. This is us from the future. This is us.
Good Lord.
This is us from the future. We're going to be have chess on next week. Next Friday, we're having chess on the show. We forgot to mention it, so we're bringing this in and putting it in the beginning. We're having chess on the show. I don't know exactly what's going to happen. Chess and his community are planning something absolutely insane for us. I don't know exactly what it is yet. But it's going to be about music trivia. It's gaming.
It's video game trivia is the base. That's all we know. That's all we know. And chess
is this is going to be the Chess and Drip and G podcast because
it's going to be his show.
Chess is in charge. I hope he shows up with like a Bob Barker suit and microphone and everything.
I hope so too. I hope he's got like the long skinny microphone.
Yeah,
great.
Yeah, we need that. But again, we're gonna get back to the episode.
So excited I got that.
But it should be a shock to nobody that right now in the world of Nintendo, let's just say the world of gaming really, but Nintendo especially at the moment, there is nothing happening. And this podcast is not a news podcast. We do cover the trending topics just to try to reach a bigger audience every week. But we're not a news podcast, but there is nothing newsworthy, for lack of a better term,
literally nothing
to talk about. There's just nothing. So Drip and I have created a little bit of a grab bag of ideas the past few months, and we haven't dipped in yet, but tonight is going to be our first night where we dip into a little grab bag. So this will be a little grab bag episode for you. And Drip,
we should just start calling it. I like that.
Yeah.
The grab bag episode.
Drip, what are we talking about tonight?
Well, Geeb, we're going to talk about the history of Nintendo. We're going to talk about the consoles they've made, the changes they've made, the things that we've seen them do and continue to do as they move forward, and what that could mean for their next console, the Switch 2. Presumably, the Switch 2 coming out the beginning of next year, from what we know. Maybe announced sometime in the next 4 months. I think it's a good time to talk about it, though. I think it's a very good time to really start deep diving into this, because we've done a bunch of the Switch 2 speculation bullshit. We've been doing it I mean, I don't know, 2 years now. We've been doing it for a while longer than that.
Breaking news drip. I have my first video that I made my channel public was the last Switch 2 video you'll ever need to watch, and that was over 3 years ago. Well, actually, about 3 years ago, and that was only me.
Really?
Yeah. It was 2021, dude. It was early.
Yeah, well, I mean, I've made.
It was early 2021.
It doesn't matter. Regardless, I think we're actually in the area now where it's like it's okay to talk about this now. This is happening, and there's a lot of cool stuff. We know some stuff that's possibly going on with the storage, which I think is very interesting. I know we're going to get into that, but I do want to get into, before we get into the Switch 2 part of it, I do kind of want to just take a little stroll down memory lane, look at some of this stuff, and kind of just see the similarities and things, the way that they work, because you can see it. I mean, they keep bringing stuff with them. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
If you start at the beginning, like they have the thing, and then they take that thing, and they do something else with it. But they bring that little piece along. You know what I mean?
Yes.
And then they'll do something else, and then they'll innovate and do something different. But they bring a little piece along. You know what I mean? It's always like that. And I think another thing that gets lost in all of this, and it still continues to happen to this day, and you know, we get called Nintendrones, this, that, whatever. But I mean, I'm sorry, not even being a fanboy, whatever. PlayStation, Microsoft, Sony, whatever, whoever you're talking about, they take what Nintendo does. Now they do it later, they do it better usually. But Nintendo's the one that's innovating all this stuff. And it's happened almost every single console generation since what? The Super Nintendo?
The Super Nintendo.
The NES?
Honestly, I mean, like, I didn't have this written down, but we could even start at the Game & Watch. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like with the D-pad. They innovated with the D-pad, man. Before D-pads, you only had like joysticks. And actually, Drip, let's just start there because I brought it up. Let's just start there. We're going back in time. As one of my favorite podcasts, Stuff You Should Know, they call it the Wayback Machine. Let's go in the Wayback Machine real fast, and let's go back to the time where the Game & Watch came out. And obviously, like I just said, as far as like innovations, what they were doing, it was a handheld console, right? But it was the D-pad is specifically what we're talking about here. The D-pad
they had other versions of it too that didn't have D-pads and buttons, whatever.
Right.
But yeah, the D-pad was the thing. That's when it happened. Yeah.
Right. So I mean, the Nintendo invented the D-pad. If you didn't know that, they invented the D-pad. Before that,
they had a patent on it for a long time.
Yeah.
They still might. Like the shape of the D-pad.
Mm-hmm.
I know they had a patent on it for a while. Like even when Sony, when the PlayStation tried to come out with a D-pad style, they weren't allowed to use that shape.
That's why we ended up with the one.
That's why they had to go with this, the four little buttons, basically. I mean, it's not basically a D-pad, but it's not. It is
a D-pad. If you open that up, it's just a weird looking D-pad. It still operates.
They just weren't allowed to use
it's not four buttons, but yeah.
Right. They weren't allowed to use the shape.
Right.
So I mean, they protected themselves back then, at least.
Right. So anyway, that's not where I was going to start really on the NES, and let's go ahead and start with that because the NES, believe it or not, at least in my opinion here, had a couple gimmicks, right? The first gimmick would be the name itself. If you didn't really know, the NES stands for Nintendo Entertainment System. Notice it doesn't stand for Nintendo Gaming Entertainment System. It's specifically and on purpose the Nintendo Entertainment System. And that was because in the U.S. market back when the NES came out, American households and families, specifically the older people buying the console, they obviously gaming is for kids back then, right? So there was parents buying the console. They looked down at gaming, and they thought, and parents for the longest time did not want their kids playing games.
It's the devil, man.
It's they're good old American traditions. They did not like gaming, so Nintendo tried to frame it as an entertainment system, not a gaming console. So the family could enjoy, hence the Famicom, which is what the name was in Japan. And if you didn't notice, and Europe, and if you didn't notice, the NES looks a lot like something us old people would know, and that would be a VHS player, and that is definitely intentional because they wanted it to fit in with the home entertainment vibe. And back in the day, you had your TV. You might have had a cable box. In fact, this is probably time before the cable box. You had a TV with rabbit ears, and then you had a VHS if you were rich, basically. Not everyone had VHS at the start. but they wanted it to fit in. So it looked like a VHS, and you entered a game just like a VHS, Drip.
Yeah, it was. It was basically the same thing, and kind of the same thing. You know, when you put a VHS and at least it took it in itself and pushed it down where it was supposed to be.
Right.
You know, and with the Nintendo, you were trying to push it in and pull it back out because it wasn't working, and blowing in it and hitting it and trying to do all kinds of stupid shit. It didn't work that well. It got messed up very easy. But I mean, the next thing they did, Super Nintendo, obviously more power. We know that. But then they doubled the face buttons. We didn't just have A and B anymore. We had A, B, X, and Y. Everybody else did the same thing. Oh, more buttons, yeah. And shoulder buttons, too. Shoulder buttons.
That's right. The NES had introduced the shoulder buttons, and they introduced 4 face buttons. Were they the first one to do both of those? I don't know. I don't think so.
I do believe so, yeah.
Were they?
Well, I mean, yeah, nobody had shoulder buttons.
Okay. I'm not positive.
Sega may have had the 3-button controller. I don't know if they had the 6-button controller yet.
Here we go, Drip in the chat. Thank you for 15% lets us know that Genesis had 6 buttons first. But technically, though,
did they have the 6-button one first? That's what I'm wondering.
But technically, that does mean that Nintendo still was the first to have 4. So maybe Genesis had 6, but Nintendo had 4, which is the one that ended up working out and that won the console war, so to speak. So I don't know. Genesis is not even a thing, let alone 6 buttons anymore. I'm going to call that a wash, but yeah, that's a good point to bring up for sure. Genesis definitely had more buttons first, so we can give the point to Genesis there if you really want. We're not giving points here. This is not like a Nintendo pat in the back episode. This is all leading to a place with the Switch 2, and we'll get there in a second.
So the next thing is they kept those more face buttons. They kept adding more face buttons. They kept doing that. That went crazy. They kept the shoulder buttons. They actually added more. The Z button on the back of the 64 controller.
That's right.
I mean, obviously we know what a weird shape that thing was. That was a full departure from what they were doing with their other controllers.
That's right. The N64 controller itself is a gimmick. I mean, it's got 3 handles. Oh, yeah. It's so weird. So kind of, the design is iconic to this day. Not the best design, but it was iconic.
It is the best design. You are too young to appreciate it, Geeb. I'm sorry. You weren't there. You weren't there. You weren't old enough to. You weren't old enough to appreciate it.
You're wrong.
How about that?
You're wrong, because I played a lot of N64 as a kid. But you can be wrong. It's fine. Don't worry. It's fine. I'll let you be wrong. It's a bad design, and everybody who's played one knows that. And if you're saying otherwise, you're lying.
I played it a bunch as a kid.
I have so many memories of playing N64. Now, did I play it on release day like you old folks? No, but I had it as a kid, and not me in my house, but my friends had it. I'd go over to their house and play it. It was a lot of fun. Not the points. We're not playing points here.
Whatever. It's a great design.
But Nintendo, let's get to the point, Drip. Stop derailing us with your nonsense.
The point is, they keep bringing the stuff. They keep innovating. Analog. They take the stuff that they've innovated. They bring it over. They do more. Again, like you just said, analog. We got an analog stick.
Yeah.
And what did PlayStation do after that?
Not 1, but 2.
But they re-released their controller. Their PlayStation controller. They re-released it with 2 sticks.
They did.
Not in a new console. Just a new controller for the same console with 2 sticks.
I actually remember, this is something I can vividly remember, because we had a PS1 in my house, and we had the version that came with the D-pad version, not the analog stick one. And I vividly remember when we got some third-party controllers and they had 2 analog sticks on them. It was like, oh my god, this is weird, but also awesome. So that was actually my first experience with analogs, was the PS1.
Oh, controller. You know what else they had too? It's not even on our little list here, but I just remembered it. Do you remember the Rumble Pack?
For the N64. Now that I was too young to even appreciate it, even if I did have it. I didn't really give a shit.
Oh man,
I
remember. I think mine came with when I bought Star Fox 64. I think Star Fox 64 came with a Rumble Pack, if I'm not mistaken. Oh man, that thing was intense. You talk about like
it was big, man.
My God, dude. And the Rumble, and it was like, okay, we get it. Like, holy cow, this is nuts. Other than that, stick stayed. The GameCube controller was a whole.
Yeah, let's move on to the GameCube here. It's a
whole thing.
Yeah, so there's a lot to it with the GameCube. Let's run down real fast and then react, Drip. GameCube button placement was weird. It changed things up and made the big A button, the small B button, and 2 top left X and Y buttons. That was definitely weird. No one ever really did anything like that before. Small discs, the discs. So now they switched to discs. Nintendo did to try to compete and keep up with what people were going with. And they kind of did their own thing with the small disc, which was interesting. It's but a gimmick nonetheless. It's definitely something you can market. There was a handle on the GameCube for portability. If you didn't know, you could literally, technically, you now it didn't have a battery in it, but you could take your GameCube with you via your handle that was built in, and take it from your friend's house to like a little LAN party situation.
I mean, how many motherfuckers you see walking down the street with a GameCube?
I don't know, man. I bet that was a big thing with 13-year-olds back in the day. I bet.
I mean, I don't know. Maybe it was. I don't know. I never saw that. But
listen, if that was the thing in my era, I would have absolutely been that dumbass carrying my GameCube down the street to my friend's house. But I was playing Xbox at that point. I was not.
Did you bring the cables, man? Nah, I didn't bring the cables.
We were doing Xbox,
bring the GameCube.
together, and not the GameCube. But they also dripped. Now, I didn't do any research recently, but I do remember. Did it actually come out, or did it never? I know the second thing on the list, the 3D thing, we'll get to in a second. That never came out. Excuse me, but the top thing, did the GameCube actually receive an official release of of a screen attachment? I think it did.
That was the thing. I had moved away from Nintendo of those years of my life. I didn't care about the game. I was like, man.
Well, whether or not
babies.
Whether or not it actually came out or not, I do know that it was in development, and I don't know if it actually came out. But there was a screen you could put onto your GameCube to add to that portability aspect to it. And also Nintendo, by the way, before the 3DS was ever a thing, Nintendo was working on 3D for the GameCube for that screen. That I do know. So
that's nuts.
That was the thing. And there's a video you can watch if you Google it. I did research a while ago on this, but I was just this off the top of my dome here. But there's a thing you can watch Nintendo revealing this 3D screen thing, and it's really kind of crazy. But anyway, we move on to the Wii.
I didn't even know that, man. That's wild.
It is wild. We move on to the Wii. The Wii didn't have a lot of gimmicks except for the biggest gimmick of all of them.
Literally ever in gaming.
That to this day is still being used in a positive manner. Motion control, obviously, is what we're talking about here. The Wii had motion control, and motion control is used in most in PlayStation and PlayStation, PC, and Switch to this day. So I mean,
it's coming all that stuff. In those Microsoft leaks, we saw their controller that they're supposedly putting out sometime this year finally has adopted motion control as well. But that started with the Wii. Yeah, it was Nintendo.
Yeah, and I guess a little side note, the Wii also had really good backwards compatibility support for a while. The first edition had the GameCube ports you could plug your own controller in. That was really cool. It also, you were able to put in your GameCube discs up until a certain point. They eventually stopped the backwards compatibility with the revisions of the Wii. But the first one had GameCube ports and support for the actual games themselves. So backwards compatibility is kind of a gimmick of the Wii as well, if you want to look at it like that.
But I want to kind of go back to, I know this isn't like the point of this conversation, but again, this is where everyone else really started to be like, okay, let's just like Nintendo's got something here. The Wii was obviously a huge success. PlayStation did their whatever those things were with the VR, they ended up being the VR headsets, controllers after it bombed on what they initially tried to do. What were those things called? They had those little like glowing red and blue balls on top. They were like wands. I don't even know what they were, but they were trying to do the same thing that the Wii was doing with the motion control.
Yeah.
They saw that. They wanted a piece of that. It failed miserably. Xbox did, what was it? The Kinect, the camera thing with motion controls, failed miserably. Nobody could really get the motion control thing quite like the Wii PlayStation Move. Thank you. That's what it was called.
There you go. Thanks, Walmart.
Failed. They ended up using it as the controllers for the PlayStation VR. So at least it had some life after that. And then we got the Wii U.
I'm sorry, Drip. One more. I didn't even add. Dude, I forgot about the Wii U altogether. I didn't put it in the list at all.
But I mean, it's easy to forget.
It is forgettable. I'm looking at it right now on my screen. It's behind me. No, actually, Megaboy, real fast. Megaboy brought up a really good point. The GameCube's also had one more gimmick up its sleeve that we didn't mention. The Wavebird controller, wireless controllers. I don't know. I don't know if they
other things.
Yeah, they weren't the first. I don't think the Wavebird was the first, but the Wavebird was excellent in its time.
That was the Cadillac of wireless controllers. Yeah.
Oh yeah. So
especially
just one
for
of
the time.
Yeah, I want to shout out the Wavebird controller because that's a really popular one to this day. They're still designing controllers based off that design today. Shout out Nixie. So yeah. Moving on, Drip, the Wii U, which I didn't even list, but yeah, there you go. Moving on to the Wii U, Drip. The Wii U didn't have any. I don't have any written, but obviously
the Wii U was just before its time. Okay, we were not ready for the Wii U.
We weren't ready, Drip. We were so not ready
Nintendo
that we didn't even add it to the list.
Ready for the Wii U because they didn't even know how to fucking explain what it was.
They didn't have any games out when it came out either. I mean, they literally weren't
Nintendo
ready.
Literally wasn't ready. They were not ready. They didn't know how to explain it. The marketing was terrible. It flopped, but. It is
the concept is awesome.
The concept's great, but it's basically a Switch concept. It just works differently. You know what I mean?
Correct.
You can see what they wanted to do. The technology wasn't there. They tried to do this dual screen thing, and they were kind of doing it in handhelds too. I mean, obviously they were with the DS, the 3DS, the 2DS, all that, 2 screens. It worked sort of similar to that. I mean, you know, depending on what game you're playing, there were some things that they showed. They showed so many things that the Wii U was supposed to do early.
It just really didn't
do. Half the fucking games never even came out. None. Like they showed all this crazy stuff at E3 when they first announced this thing. Half that stuff never even came to the system. They announced so many different third-party, whatever, all this stuff where we're gonna have all these games and all these people, and it flopped. Because everybody thought it was a controller for the Wii.
Right.
Nobody knew what the fuck it was, so nobody bought it.
I will say this, though, Drip, regarding where we're taking this conversation with the Switch 2, the Wii U is actually really important in this conversation.
Very.
So we're going to keep that in the back burner because I didn't write it down. I forgot about it, but let's not forget about it again. Let's move on now to the Switch. Obviously, you know, the Switch is a hybrid console. It's the biggest gimmick of it all, but I would say it's one of the best gimmicks that they've done because it's one of you can make an argument for this, but it's one of the only gimmicks of all the gimmicks they've ever done that literally that 100% of people will use at some point and enjoy. Like, not everybody needed small.
It's a gimmick. It's a gimmick that's not gimmicky,
right?
If that makes any sense.
It's why it's so successful.
It actually serves a real purpose. And it's the first time we've seen it done like this and actually
you put it way better than I did. Thanks, Drip.
Sorry.
Sorry. Thank you.
The hybrid system, it's something even younger. I'd play the 3DS and I'd be like, God, I just want
We've always wanted
games.
We've always wanted it.
Yeah, I want those games on this thing. I just wanted to play the same games. Why can't this play those games? And Nintendo finally did it. They finally did it. They gave me what I wanted the entire time, was just let me play handheld, but a full console experience. And they nailed it.
Technically, Drip, though, I'm not, maybe just your wording was a little bit off, but technically the 3DS accomplished that because they had this, it wasn't the same copy of the game, but it was the same game on the 3DS and you could play in your Wii U. For example, Hyrule Warriors had its own version. Right. But I'm saying on a technicality, it's already done.
One-to-one versions.
No. And what I was going to say is when I was a kid, what I wanted was the exact game. I wanted to play the exact game, the same copy of the same game in my hand, and I wanted to throw it on the TV because I was not a handheld gamer as a kid. Although that's what I only really had. I had a Game Boy Advance. I didn't play it a whole lot because I didn't like it that much. Probably because throughout my life I've had uncomfortable hands while gaming. That's always been a problem for me. Is like being comfortable while gaming.
My hands are uncomfortable while gaming.
Shut the fuck up. But no, so like it's always been a problem for me, and I didn't really realize until later in life that like, oh yeah, I don't play games a lot because my hands get cramped. So like certain controllers make me game for longer. And as far as when you had a game that only was available for this handheld console that wasn't comfortable, it was hard for me to game. But now, and that's what I wanted. I wanted a game that could play in my hand, but like on occasion for a few minutes, but then pop it into TV, and like that's what the Switch delivered it. And it took me a few years to get on board. It took me about 3 years after the Switch came out. But finally, I was like, you know what? I need to pull the trigger on this and change my life in many ways.
I want to fast forward before we really get into like what we're actually going to be talking about, like what the Switch 2 is going to have. I kind of want to set this up a little bit more than we have, just of where we're at right now. Because when the Switch came out in 2017, most of us know, there was no competition. There wasn't another handheld like the Switch at that time. You know what I mean? There wasn't the ROG Allies and the Steam Decks and everything else we have now, because there's a ton of in the last, what is it, 7 years? 7 years now?
7 years.
There have been a lot of handheld hybrid style systems to come out, and a lot of them are fucking nice, like really nice. The Steam Deck, I mean,
awesome.
it puts the Switch to shame as far as power. I mean, as far as
comfortability, man, it's so comfortable.
Comfortability, yeah. I mean, the Joy-Cons are not comfortable. I don't play.
It's bigger, it's heavier, but somehow it's easier to play in handheld mode.
Oh yeah, because there's something that's substantial in your hands. It's something to hold on to.
They gave you something
like
to hold
a
on
Cadillac.
to. Yeah.
So things have changed. Nintendo has a lot that they're going to have to put into this Switch 2 to make this a viable thing when it comes out, because there's a chance that this thing could come out and they could fuck this all up just like they did with the Wii U. And you know what I'm talking about.
Oh, yeah.
A big problem, I think, with the Wii U is something they did was they put way too much stupid shit in the Wii U. Like, oh, it's a TV remote. It's this. It's that. It does this. It does that. And everyone's like, hold the fuck on.
I just want to play my games.
It's a controller
Nintendo.
for the Wii? They're like, no. It's not a controller for the Wii. It's the Wii U. It's also a TV remote. It's got this. It's got that. You can play it just handheld. You don't even have to use the Wii U. You mean the Wii? It hooks up to the Wii? No.
Because let's not forget the Wii U console itself, not the tablet, but the console looks an awful lot like a Wii.
Oh yeah, and in the initial marketing, they didn't even show the damn thing.
A white slab. Yeah, that's a good point, Drip. They never even showed it in the marketing, which is a big reason why it was confusing.
It was in the background on a screen, and it was blurry. They showed the controller only.
Once we finally saw the console, though, it's like it even looks like the Wii.
Yeah, it looked like a black Wii instead
it's
of a
like,
white
it's got rounded
Wii.
corners.
Yeah.
It must be just like a new version of the Wii, and all these accessories will probably go backwards compatible with the Wii. And it's like, no, it's not at all what it is.
That's what it was too. Everything was called like the Wiimote.
Because in the commercials, Drip, the Wii U was using Wii nunchucks for a lot of things.
Yeah, well, that too. But all the
it's not backwards.
the
nunchucks were not just backwards compatible; they were a feature of the console that they brought over. It shipped with a light bar, I thought. Did it not?
I don't know if it shipped the light bar.
Did it? I think it has the port on the back. I mean, that at least
it does have a port on the back. Yeah.
It's supposed to be plugged in. It's not natively.
They made everything with the Wii completely compatible with the Wii U.
I mean, we could do a whole show, Drip.
Tablet. Yeah.
I mean, maybe next
use a Wiimote and the golf balls on the screen on the ground.
Right.
It looks like a fucking controller.
Maybe next week, if we're still light on the content, we'll just do a whole episode on the failure of the Wii U. That'll be the thumbnail.
Tell you when we're gonna do it,
Geeb.
We're gonna do it tomorrow
on the
for our members podcast. So if you want to hear that, you can become a member. All you gotta do is click the button right down there. Hit join. You can become a member. You can get extra podcasts every month from us. We do an extra podcast every single month for members.
I could kiss you right now.
Click that. We will be doing that tomorrow. But let's move on.
Yeah.
The Switch 2 has a lot of shit it's got to get right. A lot of shit.
We actually can't move on. Very briefly, we need to touch
not moving
because
on.
we ignored half of Nintendo's other consoles that they've put out. With all the handheld consoles, we need to because these are important too.
Run through them briefly because it's important.
There's probably more. I might be missing some here, but again, these are all off the top of my head, right? So the Game Boy Light came out in Japan only. It was a version of the Game Boy Pocket that had a backlight, or actually a front light is what it was. So that was a little gimmick console that came out handheld wise.
Yeah.
Of course, the Game Boy Micro came out.
Game Boy Advanced, Game Boy SP, Game Boy, every other thing.
In terms of gimmicks, though, those were not gimmicks. Those were just different variants of the console. But the Game Boy Micro was absolutely a gimmick. It was in a Game Boy Advance, just small. It's literally its only existence was a gimmick.
The Game Boy Advance was the Game Boy Advance SP. It's a clamshell.
I wouldn't say that's a gimmick, though. I guess you're kind of right. It was a little bit of a gimmick.
It's a gimmick.
It's a little bit of a gimmick. It's improved design, though. It's less a gimmick, more improved design.
Well, and that led to the 2DS.
Correct.
The 3DS.
And moving on to the last things I could think of were the DS, the 2DS, and the 3DS. All three of those were lumped together. All different gimmicks. There's many. The DS itself started the whole thing with the clamshell handheld thing, right? Except unless you're giving that credit to the SP, which you could, it's fine. But in this purpose of this conversation, I'll give it to the DS. Really started it. That's its whole shtick. It was double screens clamshell. Then you went to the 3DS was after that, right? Well, I mean, actually, there was a bunch
about a gimmick.
There was a bunch of other. There was like the DS Lite and the DS Lite Plus and what the fuck. There's a bunch of little ones. But
how did you feel about the 3D on the 3DS?
I actually liked it. I really did. And I had the I had the OG idea. I've never even seen the 3DS, the new 3DS that has an improved 3D. I've never even seen that one. I've only ever used the original one.
It's way better.
Yeah, I like it. I also was the guy in 2010 who encouraged my parents to purchase our family TV was a Sony 3D TV, and actually enjoyed the 3D for a little bit there. So I'm that weirdo who I also to this day will go and see 3D movies.
Why? God, that's so
weird. I like 3D movies.
Wait, what does your mom call every gaming system?
The Game Box X.
I will never get sick of that. That's the funniest thing.
Dude, I'm gonna be 30 years old this year, and we're still to this day laughing about that. Okay.
Get off the damn Game Box X, will you? Gabe, get off the Game Box X.
Yeah.
It's time for dinner.
Mom, it's my God, Megaboyd. Listen, Megaboyd. The Game Boy X, Megaboyd says, are we talking gimmicks and not mentioning the Virtual Boy?
Oh no!
Its whole existence was a gimmick.
Virtual Boy.
Yeah.
No. Have you ever played a Virtual Boy?
No, I never seen one.
Oh my God, dude, they are wild. My neighbor had one, man. It was like the most wild thing you've ever seen. It was so weird when you looked in there. All it was is red.
Yeah,
red lines. It was so weird. It was so
weird.
Did
you see John Cartwright's video he posted on Good Vibes Gaming recently about if you have a modded 3DS, you can finally play native, and you can emulate the Virtual Boy in a really cool way. Nowadays, there's a recent mod that came upon or something. Basically, you can emulate on the modded 3DS the Virtual Boy and its games and play it 3D like a Virtual Boy is meant to be played, but not without the screen in front of your face, obviously, like the Virtual Boy does.
That was the thing that sucked, man. You get in there and you're just like, I'm going to throw up. I'm going to be sick.
In his video, I recommend you guys go check it out. In his video, it seems like it's an awesome experience. So I recommend checking it out.
One more quick one. Dude's a Monster just brought something else up. The Super Game Boy. It was literally a cartridge you put in.
Oh, yeah.
The Super Nintendo.
That's an accessory.
Game Boy cartridges in there and play them on the TV.
Awesome. Good. We should have mentioned it, but it's not a console, so it is just an accessory. But that is really cool. You basically added a Game Boy to your GameCube, was it
Super Nintendo?
Super Nintendo. That was pretty cool.
Yeah.
Anyway, Drip. Now we move on to the.
Geeb.
To the question.
Now we're here.
The question of the episode, right? The question of the whole episode. The reason we just went down the lineage of Nintendo is for this reason. What is Nintendo planning for the Switch 2 in terms of gimmicks? Because we know from history that every single console at least has a small gimmick, at least, if not multiple gimmicks. So Nintendo is allergic to releasing a normal console. That's why it won't be called the Switch 2, because they're allergic to any sort of logic when it comes to their naming of their consoles. It needs to be different. It has to have a gimmick because they're allergic to anything else. So, Drip, what can we expect from a Switch 2? And we're gonna do multiple versions of this. Are we going? Right. We're gonna do what is realistic, what's not realistic, and what you want.
Okay, I'm gonna go realistic first because I did predict the Direct in February, so I'm a leaker now. We've established that. I am a Nintendo leaker. I have inside information clearly because I know these things. So I can tell you what the next Switch is actually going to be, Geeb, if you want to know. I can tell you right now. I will about it.
I will hear it.
So the next Nintendo Switch is not going to be called a Switch. You're right. It probably won't be called the Switch 2 because they don't do that. But I don't think they're going to abandon. I think we know enough about it now that we know they're not going to abandon the hybrid nature of the system. We are going to get another handheld, probably more powerful, Probably got some AI stuff going on in there for upscaling. You
Yep.
know, we'll talk more about that in a bit. We know that stuff's probably going to be in there, but I think I think they're going to actually stick to this pretty close. But I think what the gimmick is going to be, instead of really just straying away from what they've clearly done extremely well and sold almost more consoles than anybody on the planet, I think they're just going to add another way to switch.
Yeah, that makes the most sense.
I don't know what it is. I don't know what it is yet. Right now we have handheld, docked, tabletop.
Did you hear
I
that
think there's
recent
gonna be a
leak?
fourth way.
I'm feeding off what you're talking about. Did you hear that recent leak? The Switch Attach? Well, leak. It's not a leak, man. It's stupid. The Switch Attach. Have you heard about that?
No.
So there's a photo going around the internet. There's a Google survey going around. They frequently put out surveys, and I think it was on YouTube actually. And one of the surveys that pulled up was about console generations. I don't remember the exact question of the survey, but their answers were the Xbox Series or whatever, the PlayStation 5, and the Nintendo Switch Attach.
Didn't PowerMad put that in
the Discord? I think he did. I think he did.
I was looking through there today. I thought I saw something about that.
Now, I'm not saying I want this to happen, and I bet you it was just some sort of error, or I don't think it's actually a leak. I think it's just bullshit. However, it's interesting to think that maybe in some weird way, the next Switch switches is by some sort of attaching thing, and maybe the loose translation that they got from Japanese was attached, and that's how we ended up with this leak, if you will. That's a real big stretch. I'm saying it, not believing what I'm saying, but the point is it's going off your logic here.
It's going here, and Full Metal Knee and the chat also says VR headset attach. And let's think that's a very, especially if you've got more power in a Switch 2 and you're running it through some AI upscaling stuff, and you can really do some very close eye stuff, things to make VR possible. That could be the other way to switch. We saw them mess with that in Breath of the Wild has a VR mode.
Yes.
Smash Brothers has a VR mode. And what's the other one?
Odyssey?
Odyssey has a VR mode. I think there's another one too. Could you imagine Mario Kart in VR?
It'd be fun, but I've recently learned, I didn't know this because I didn't have the Labo. But apparently, I'm sure a lot of you know, but this is news to me. You had to hold it to your face. There was no strap on the Labo.
Oh yeah, it was like the elephant trunk thing.
Yeah,
you had to hold it there. Yeah.
Yeah. So you can't play games.
No, you can't. You're very busy, holding it to your face.
You can't play. It's the VR headset.
This looks so
for
cool.
gaming that you can't play the game.
No, we can't. Wait, you move. Take the controller.
I can't
see where I'm going.
I've seen the images before. I've seen it on the internet, and I never put together that. Oh yeah, you're holding it to your face. Therefore, there's no way to hold the Joy-Con to actually play the game. Which it's just, dude, think about this. They could have designed it to
where just tape it to your head.
But think about this. They could have designed the Labo in a way, the VR headset for Labo, where the Switch and the Joy-Cons were all, you held the up to your face with the Joy-Con.
Like this?
And it'd be super duper weird.
How uncomfortable would that be?
It's already uncomfortable, man. The Joy-Cons stink without a grip on them.
Let's make a shitty thing even shittier.
No, but at least you could play the game. Why would you put that out like that?
That's fair. Okay, so maybe that's the other way to switch.
You still got to hold it to your face, but at least you're holding it with functionality. I mean, come on.
I don't really have...
What are you going to do? Take out your you-know-what and just play with that? How are you supposed to play the games, man? And what do females do at that point? I mean, come on, man.
Jesus. Okay. Anyway.
This is not a podcast for children.
Let's go to some other stuff here. Realistic. New Joy-Cons. I don't even know, honestly. We'll talk about the crazy stuff that could happen with that.
I'm putting myself in timeout. I'm putting myself in timeout. I'm just gonna.
Okay. Well,
I'm just gonna leave the screen.
Okay. I feel like the Joy-Cons. That's up in the air. I think it's a very big missed opportunity that Nintendo did not make any other Joy-Cons. All we have are different colors of the same exact thing, while third-party companies have made basically every other thing we asked for and all the weird stuff that we thought Nintendo was going to make. That was the cool thing when the Switch was announced, too, because we were like, oh man, like
No,
there's going to be
Drip, I'm
all
still
these
waiting.
attachments, this and that.
I'm still waiting for the NES controllers that are dysfunctional and sideways on the side of the Switch. I need Joy-Con that I can't play with. That's what I need. I'm still waiting for. Oh wait, I'm not waiting for it. Nintendo put that out.
Yeah, they did put that out.
That's the only thing they put out.
But I mean, we've got GameCube. We've got GameCube Joy-Cons. We literally have had other companies make GameCube controllers, cut them in half, and make them into Joy-Cons. Several.
And they work well.
We've got, and look, God, I just got these. I just did a video. You know this. Just did a video on these ones from Binbach. And let me tell you something. These might be the most comfortable Joy-Cons I have ever used in my life. They are amazing, man. They're so good. Nintendo gives us one shape.
And it's worst. And it's the worst shape.
And it's the worst shape. Yeah. Everybody else, every other company has been trying to make the Switch holdable for 7 years. And Nintendo's like, oh, we got new colors though.
I will actually argue against Hari for being the worst shape. I know there's a lot of Hari split pad fans out there, and I'm not. You can enjoy. I'm not saying you can't enjoy your product. For my hands, the way I hold a Switch, the Hari split pad is the worst Joy-Con because there's a point on the end of, and it literally, the way I hold it, I know I accept that I'm weird, but the way I hold it, it digs directly into my hand. All of that, at least the Joy-Con is smooth, right around the edge. This thing has a freaking point. But anyway,
these are great, man.
Yeah,
these are so good. These are really good. I can't wait for that video. Video's coming out Friday, by the way.
Indeed.
I don't know about those. I mean, I don't know. That's up in the air. New Pro controller.
Yeah. Well, hold on, Drew. I'm going to address this first because it's in the thumbnail. That weird looking Switch I put in the thumbnail. Let's just talk about that real fast. So if you're on the audio side and haven't seen the thumbnail, go check out the YouTube channel. It's there. Also, we post it to our socials. You can check out the thumbnail there as well. But it's basically the Switch 2 has dual screens like a 3DS. It's a clamshell design. Which drip would really help me out and make me a credible leaker? Because I leaked that console. How many years ago? Was it 2 years ago now? 2 years ago? I said the Wii U, the Switch U Deluxe Plus was going to come out.
And I said we have to call it the U2.
Or actually, I don't think it was 2 years ago. I actually think, my idea was like 2 years ago, but the actual video we put out was last year.
The Wii U2.
The Wii U2.
It's a beautiful day.
It's a beautiful day.
It's a beautiful day.
Anyway, my whole idea of like the Switch 2 taking up what was good about the Wii U and introducing it in a non-sucky way with good marketing would really be backed up by the fact that the next Switch console has dual screens, so you can take that experience from the TV with you on the go with the dual screen. So that's my unrealistic one, Drip. That would be really fun. I would love that. I think it'd be kind of big and heavy and annoying and realistically not the best one, but it would be super fun to have a clamshell Switch.
Yeah, it would. I don't know.
I miss having menus in my hands.
Talk about?
Like, I thought that was cool. But go ahead, you can talk about what you.
Can I talk about the things I'm not allowed to talk about anymore? It's past February.
I will give you a mulligan.
Okay, just once, because you're talking about dual screens. Those two Zelda games that I want on the Switch so bad were made for a console that has two screens. So if the new Switch has two screens, maybe that's why they're like, we'll just wait. We'll just wait and put them out on the one with two screens since they're already made for two screens. Okay, I'm done. I won't say anything else about it. Something before we get into this other stuff though, I want to talk about the storage. I really want to get into that so we can just kind of because this is something I think that is actually happening. I know it's a rumor, but there's some credible shit to this, and I think this is something. I don't think a lot of people are talking about this, and I think it's very interesting. But it looks like the newer Switch 2 games, whatever they are going to have to be stored if they're not on the internal storage. And I want to talk about what the internal storage might be as well. But they're going to have to be stored on a special SD card. Something that reads, writes, transfers faster. And Samsung just happened to make one of those, Geeb. They have one. It is releasing
Now,
later
Drip,
this year.
why would the Switch 2 need? Why would you need this faster storage? Would it be because a very similar experience that's happening right now with the PS5 and Xbox Series consoles, where you're able to store,
games.
you can store your games on external drives that aren't super fast, but if you want to play them with the with all the real next gen features, if you will, you have to store. It has to be played off of the internal drive.
Okay.
Itself.
Yeah, and I'm gonna go into that because I think I've got this all figured out how they're gonna run this shit. So the thing is, it's called it's a new micro SD card, but it's called the SD Express.
Okay.
So I told you I've got some pretty fast micro SD cards for my camera and stuff that read like 300 megabits per second,
right?
400 megabits per second. These are gonna read and write at up to 800 megabytes per second.
My math is not great, but that's at least 4 times faster than like a good one you can get right now.
Yeah, I mean it's over double the speed of the good ones that I use for my camera.
Right.
It's very fast, and you've got to think about the other storage that's going on in these other consoles. SSDs, obviously, solid state drives are way faster. You can't. I mean, I guess you could put a solid state drive in a handheld, and they do, but like
the Steam Deck has one.
Nintendo, yeah, but Nintendo, they don't want it big. They don't want it. They're trying to make things small. So this might be the solution for expandable storage with that. And there was actually something that Samsung said, which kind of cements this for me, that they announced a collaboration with a customer to create a custom product. So they are specifically making these SD cards for a customer, for somebody.
Nintendo.
I mean, my guess is that's Nintendo and their storage for their new Switch, because they need it faster. The games are going to be bigger. We know this thing's going to have more power. It's going to be running bigger games. You're not going to be able to just run them off of a regular SD card.
Let's say this too, Drip. With that, the next console, without even needing to be said, with the faster storage and everything, it also is going to need faster Wi-Fi.
Oh yeah,
read and write speeds, because
absolutely.
If you're gonna, most people are probably not going to buy. Most people are not going to buy this new SD card. They'll probably just use a regular one that should be backwards compatible. But you just won't be able to play your game off it. You'll have to play the same game that Xbox and PS5 people do. We're switched back and forth. And if you're going to do that, and a lot of times you're going to have to use the internet for that, you need something that's going to be able to download these games fast for you, so it's not taking absolutely forever to get it on your system, transferring files back and forth from the SD card to your drive. It's going to have to be super fast. Like, they got to update that shit.
Right. Okay. And then a lot of people are like, okay, well then what are they going to use for the internal storage? What are they going to use? So it seems like it's possible that Samsung has this other thing. It is called USF 4.0.
Okay, tell me about it.
Now that's what they use in Samsung phones. Okay, that's the internal storage for mobile phones right now, and it can, it's fast. It's super fast. It's kind of going to go hand in hand with these fast cards. So instead of using an SSD, it looks like they might be using this USF 4.0 as the internal storage for the Switch. So you're going to be able to get the maybe 256 gigabytes. In internal, not the 64, the bullshit we have now, 32 gigabytes, which is absolutely unusable. I mean, obviously, that's not going to be what we want. But if this is it, if this USF 4.0 thing is what they do the storage with, you're going to be able to store your games that you need to play, and it's going to end up being this Xbox Series S, X situation, PS5, where you can play older Switch games off of a regular SD card if you have that. If you don't have the new version.
It doesn't matter where those old games are stored. It matters where the new games are stored.
They'll be fine. Yeah. And then you can store the new ones on the system. But if you have both, if you have the Express SD and this, then you've just got expanded storage for everything, which is the same way it works with the new consoles now. But I mean, this would be something, I think this is true. I mean, obviously I don't know for sure, but it makes so much sense that this is the way they would do it. Because it's fast speeds, super fast speeds, and it takes it's low power consumption. That's the big thing. That's what I was trying to say about the SSDs and doing all that other stuff. this is a way to have absolute low power consumption. That's why they use them in phones, because they are such low. They don't drive that, they don't pull that much power. That's the thing. So all this makes sense. It could all be wrong. Could be bullshit. But I mean, I like it. I hope that's what they do. It would really go hand in hand with everything else we've heard about not only bigger, better games on this system, all the AI stuff that we're going to be seeing. I mean, there's going to be a lot that's pulling power from this system, and they have to find ways to cut it down in other places. And I feel like this is one of them.
So now, let's recap real fast here. The features that, the whole reason we spent a lot of time there going over the past Nintendo consoles, some realistic features that could come directly from past consoles are a feature like the clamshell design.
It could.
It could happen. It really could. It's really not impossible for it to happen.
It's not.
A smaller device like Game Boy Micro, Switch Lite. We could get two versions where we could get something small.
I think we'll get a light. I think we'll get a light version of whatever this thing is.
Yeah.
Halfway through the life cycle, 2 years, 3 years in. Anyway, I think that's a given.
Obviously, there'll be. There will be the same gimmicks that the Switch has. The switching ability itself will be present. And you could pull some other stuff as well from old stuff. And as far as some stuff that wasn't really a factor back in the old days where Nintendo's dropping consoles, like we just talked about, data transfer speeds with hardware, that was not a factor back then because you're playing the games off the cartridges, not the internal memory. Because most of the systems didn't have really
in the
a lot
Switch.
of internal memory. Wi-Fi is something that it's recent history was important, but right now especially, the Switch is so behind as it is right now with Wi-Fi.
It's so bad, dude. What did you tell me it was the other day when we were on the phone?
It's pretty much capped. If I on both of my speeds are a lot faster, way faster than this, but I've noticed the Switch will cap you at 15 down or up. No matter 15 megabytes down or up. Like I'm capable of like I don't like math is hard, but
I'm capable of 1,000.
Of 1,000 down and up, and it's only giving you 15 at capping it at that.
I know. So yeah, that's nuts.
The Switch,
man.
it's got to you got to have more data speed. That's a given. But it must happen. What was the other thing? I was about to say something else too.
Stuff's changed a lot from now since 2017. I mean, and you got to remember this too. A lot of the tech in the Switch isn't 2017 tech. It's like 2015.
It's older. That's why they're able to keep the cost down. That's why the Switch is pretty cheap at launch, because they take older tech and put it into their new stuff. But yeah,
it's like the Bluetooth in my 2015 Pilot. Like it's so far behind what's actually like if you have like a YouTube video playing and it's coming through the speakers in the car, it's like 3 seconds off. It's like, I can't watch this. I'm gonna die.
My 2014 Dodge Dart. It's the same way. Also, oh my God, if you've ever used the Uconnect services from Dodge,
I've not.
Oh, good Lord. Oh, good
bad,
Lord.
huh?
Oh my God. There's like a whole voice system to control certain things like pairing. There is no button in my car to pair a device. You must use the voice commands. And if you didn't know, car tech is always behind regardless. So in 2014, the Bluetooth voice assistant was so bad. And they lock features away with the voice assistant. Like if I want to pair a new phone or anybody's phone, I gotta press the button. And it's not like I can say enter Bluetooth pairing mode. I have to say the exact phrase that it wants. And not only that, but it doesn't understand what I'm saying. So, and I can't remember half the time what the phrase even is. I'm done complaining about that.
I got it. It's
I had to vent about that. I've never told anybody about that.
The Switch is old. They're going to have to upgrade a lot of this stuff. I think these are things that are like a given. These are things that they absolutely have to get with the times on. And even more so now because, again, back then they didn't have any competition. Now they've got a bunch. You look at stuff like the Steam Deck, it's like you said, it's got an SSD in it.
Yeah,
and
computer
you can open it
SSD.
up and change it out.
Yeah.
It's got real shit.
Yeah.
I mean, backwards compatible, gotta be. I mean, I don't even know about a new Pro Controller. I feel like the Pro Controller they have now is like, it's pretty damn good. Maybe a little bit of a redesign.
I think
But,
what they need to do is what Xbox did with Xbox One to Xbox Series. The controller barely changed.
Yeah,
but
they added a button.
They refined everything. Everything is nicer about it. So that's what they need to do. Nintendo needs to make it not cheap crap. Now, I love my Pro controllers, but let's be honest here. There are seams all over it. It's not the best quality controller, and it's a bit expensive.
Pretty nice, though.
It's nice for what it is, but if you go hold a PS5 controller, it's like, that's what $80 is supposed to get me. Not
These are
not your $300 privileged man
not
controller.
that one. Whatever. Whatever. God damn it. This. Sorry. Jesus. This.
I have 2 of my privileged man controllers that I got for free.
Fuck you. Come and get it.
Yeah, that's right. No, but I think everyone can agree that the quality could improve, especially for $80. Listen, like 8-Bit Dode, a lot of these companies, third-party companies, are making better,
really nice stuff,
better quality
very
than
nice
Nintendo
stuff.
in certain ways. So anyway, they can do that. Before we wrap it up, let's talk about game gimmicks because that's always fun.
You know the one I want to talk about, the one I talked to you about earlier today.
Well, let's just start with that one. Feel free.
Okay. And obviously everybody probably thinks they know, but you don't. You don't know. You don't know what I'm going to say. You think I'm going to talk about Zelda, but I'm not. I'm actually going to talk about Mario.
Ooh.
Because everybody has been hung up on this thing like we're getting an Odyssey 2. But I don't think that's happening now. I don't think Odyssey 2. I think Odyssey was its own thing. It will sit there as Mario Odyssey with Cappy, and we won't see that in the next game. And I feel like, again, we go back to console history. NES, we had Mario 1, 2, 3 sequels. Cool.
Yep.
Super Nintendo, we had Super Mario World, and I think the Yoshi, whatever the hell that game was called, was like the sequel to that. Okay?
Yeah.
One system.
Yeah.
One system. Then we went to GameCube. What we have? Sunshine. That was it, right?
Mhm.
One game. We had Galaxy and Galaxy 2 on the same system. Wii U. I don't think we had a new Mario game for the Wii U.
Super Mario Maker,
3D.
if you want to count that.
Yeah, okay, but then they had Mario 3D
Land or
World.
3D Mario 3D World.
Yeah, 3D World, but that
Super Mario 3D
that
World.
wasn't really like a mainline 3D Mario.
No, but it's the best one. Hot take.
It's a good.
GB said it. GB said it. No, okay, it's not the best one. It's my favorite one though. It's my favorite.
It's good.
Yeah,
it's good. It's not the best one. Anyway, so then we go to the Switch. Odyssey, and everyone's like, okay, no DLC for Mario Odyssey. We're clearly getting a 2. We're at the end, because I can tell you this right now, in the little time we have left, knowing what we've seen from Nintendo already and the games that they have announced and just the bullshit that they're trickling out right now, because it's the end of the life cycle, we are not getting Odyssey 2 on the Switch. And I don't think we're going to get it on the Switch 2, because I don't think it's going to be called the Switch 2. I think we're going to get an entirely new Mario. But Geeb, the question is, what's the gimmick? If we don't have Cappy, what's the new gimmick? What's something that they could really push the envelope with and take advantage of a system with even more power?
So, you know how there's green pipes in Mario?
Oh, yeah. I heard about those, yeah.
So, like, Mario's not in the game. And you're just Mario got stuck in the pipes, and the whole game is him trying to jump out of the pipes. So it's like Super Mario. What's the new one that came out recently?
I fucking hate you.
You're just Mario. You don't ever see. It's just a pipe with some eyebrows and a mustache. Let's go
around
with the pipe and jump around, and you're like, oh no, I'm still stuck in the pipe, but we're going to the next level.
In the chat, Power Matt just said Yoshi. I want to see Yoshi back in a mainline Mario game.
Yeah,
I would love to see that, like a rideable Yoshi in a 3D environment.
Bring it back, man. Bring back the Yoshi.
I would like to see that. That'd be very cool. I mean, a lot of things, like you're saying, actually, something that did, your stupid idea about the pipe actually did make me think about something. What if it was like a seamless open world type of thing where you could just literally go into a pipe and be in a different world, like with
no loading screen,
no loading, like with this faster stuff where you're just like bump in a new place.
Oh, I think you can guarantee. I think you can guarantee that the next Mario game is open world, because that's what they wanted to do in Odyssey. They just weren't able to achieve it because that game was running 60 1080, right? I mean, arguably not really, but where Breath of the Wild was 1080 30, so that's a lot less power it needs to be capable. I think with Odyssey, I don't know if it's all power was the reason why it wasn't open. Maybe it was also just a choice that they made, or maybe somewhere in between that. But I think you can bet that the next Mario game will be 3D Mario game will be open world.
Yeah, I mean, I think that would be cool.
No
Like if it was really like, honestly, like you could just go wherever, and maybe more. I'm not saying like change the style of what the game is, but like instead of making it like, oh, we're going to this world now, we're going to that world now, like, okay, we can go in and out of these different worlds and, you know, do different things here, and then maybe get like, oh, I just got a I don't know, some type of power up, and like, I'm gonna leave right now because I want this power up. I want to use it over here because I know there's this thing over here that I can get. You just hop in a pipe, go over to it, get it, and then okay, I got it. Now I'm coming back. You know what I mean? Just really moving around. Like that would be cool. I think that would take Mario to another place. And I'm I'm simplifying that idea, but I feel like that'd be a good place to go with it.
Yeah, and I feel like this would be a good place to stop for today.
Love that.
Great episode, Drip. This is probably one of my favorite ones this year. Outside of our guest episode, of course, that was always fun last week. Thank you guys for tuning in to check out the Communication Error podcast. Hopefully, you checked out the content they've been putting out recently as well, and subscribe to them.
Yeah, they were fun. I want to have them back.
Oh, absolutely, good. Especially the two of them, because Johnny's great to have on, and I'd love to have him on his own again. But it's especially fun to have the two of them because their whole shtick is like they argue with each other more than us, Drip, believe it or not.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, I didn't think that was possible. So it's fine.
So I would love to have them back on and get like poke the bear there and try to get him to fight. Like fisticuffs. Let's do it. No, we need to get invited on their podcast. We're gonna be nice. But anyway,
they already said we're in. It's fine. We don't have to be nice anymore. That's
true. When? That's the question. When? I want a date.
Yeah, we got to get that scheduled.
But yeah, awesome podcast, guys. Hopefully we can do this again. We will actually do this again tomorrow night for the members only. And again, what was the title I had for it? The Wii?
I don't know, but we're talking about the Wii U.
What Wii U missed opportunities. I had a great title. I'm gonna go back and rewatch
we'll
this.
Go back and find it. Whatever it was, it's gonna be great. You should become a member. There's a button right down there. We're gonna just hit that button.
We're gonna talk about the Wii U and how it was a missed opportunity, which I think was the title was. But the whole Wii U as a concept, what it had, what it lacked, why it failed, how it could maybe even those specific features could be implemented into the Switch 2. We will talk about all that stuff and more on the members show tomorrow night. Become a member. $2.99 a month gets you in right in the front door. $4.99 gets you all of the cool members features. So
that gets you in the back door. Hey.
Why that one? Why that sound, Drip?
That's the first one I saw, Geeb.
Wait, we never said anything about chess on the podcast. Hold on. Hold the phone, Drip.
Oh.
We're going to cut this portion of this show into the beginning of the show. Yeah. So we're going to sign off for now, guys. And we'll see you guys next week.
Later.